So Gustavo, hello.
Hello, Piotr.
I'm glad we had a chance to talk today. So before we move to all the topics, maybe first could you introduce yourself and your company?
I'm Gustavo Cabral. I'm leading digitalization at operations at OFI. So we have about 118 plants focusing on delivering healthy ingredients and solutions to our customers. We are a B2B company working with the major brands, with the brand behind the brands, you can say so. And we are focusing our portfolio in 5 different categories. We work with cocoa, we work with dairy, coffee, spices and nuts. We are spread around the globe, working basically all continents with the exception of Antarctica. So everywhere where agriculture takes place, basically. And the interesting thing about OFI is that we are vertically integrated in the different businesses. So we have from the seed technology to the processing, to the packing, and to the final product until it goes to the shelf. So, and that gives us the full autonomy to influence the product from beginning to end. We say it from farm to fork, basically.
Right. So I think that we can discuss a little bit the topic of digitalization across those different industries. And how would you estimate the current adoption, if I can say, of digitalization? Where are customers in digitalization journey, in your opinion?
It's different depending on the business. So there are a few main forces or drivers in digitalization. Most of them are coming from the customers and from the consumers. Customers want to have, for example, full traceability of their products. So you want to know when you buy, let's say, a bottle of water, you want to know what is the CO2 footprint of this water, and where it's being coming from, where it's being to, where it's being processed, where it's being bottled, what batches it's coming from. And to get this kind of solutions to their end consumer, to people like you and me, you do need to have digital solutions implemented. That's not the case with all products, but most of them. I would say the digital technologies are on the rise. They have been starting to be adopted by most of the companies in the food industry for about 1.5 decades, more or less. So the level of implementation of digital solutions is different depending on the business. You can see in the food industry, you have very advanced installations. So in our case, for example, take a look at the dairy business. Our greenfield project in New Zealand processes about 1 million liters of milk a day with 8 people. So you have full integration, and you can look at the different forces that I was mentioning. One of them is the change in the workforce. So, and I think one of the questions that the industry has to ask is, how can I provide a work environment that's good enough for the new generation that's growing with smartphones and with algorithms and with ChatGPT, for example? If you look at the industry always follows what happens in the consumer world. For example, the adoption of smart devices in the industry, it happened just 5 to 10 years after the smart devices started to be used in the consumer world, right? It's a natural trend. So you use it at home, you want to use it at work as well. And of course, you need the use cases, you need to have the right business cases to convince your business to invest in the different digital solutions. Another trend that I've seen is on sustainability, so the drive for net zero, that we have several agreements, especially in Europe. How can you achieve net zero nowadays without the use of digital tools? So you need to be able to track your energy consumptions in different devices. You need to correlate that with your production, with your output, and be able to drive it down, right? So, and you can only do that if you have a digital logging system for it. I also see more and more the use of advanced algorithms in production, use of machine learning, of augmented reality, use of AI, artificial intelligence algorithms, is also something that's on the rise as well.
Digitalization is quite a wide term, and maybe we can go into details of specific technologies that are involved in this. And what I'd like to understand is which technologies were shaping the industry most recently?
So digital transformation is about, in the end, going from point A to B, right? Any transformation is going from point A to B. And the thing is, when you are on point A, you don't necessarily know what point B looks like.
Oh, you should know.
How that is going to be in the future, right? What is possible at that point? In digital, you do basically four things. You capture, it goes around data. You capture the data, you analyze the data, you visualize it, and you automate your processes, industrial or your business processes. That's how you do. So the technologies that impact any of those four steps are going to be the technologies that are going to impact digitalization as well. So on the first one, capturing data, I see more and more the use of wireless devices. You see, for example, 5G is on the rise to connect to the machines, to connect to your devices, and that technology is increasing as well. The protocols to transferring data. We used to use a lot of OPC UA, for example. Now I see other protocols getting more traction, like MQTT, for example, is the same you use on your messaging devices, for example. Storing data. I see more and more the use of cloud. It's already a reality today. So for some real-time applications, it might not be the case, but it is a way of making storage cheap and more useful in the end. The way you share data with people is becoming more and more acceptable by cybersecurity protocols as well. So you are able to share more and more data, and by sharing data, the data becomes more useful. So in the end, it's not about the data, it's all about what you do with the data, right? So, and those technologies to share data, you can see so many platforms on the rise, so you can share data easily with your vendors and making it compatible as well. I see data standards on the rise as well. In Germany, so we're in Germany now, there is the IDTA, for example, the Industrial Digital Twin Association. They developed one standard for digital twin that's being more and more accepted by more companies. So that means your solutions are going to be plug and play in the future. It's going to be much easier to use your data in the future based on those standards. And then, of course, I see technologies for automating, making use of your data, machine learning, AI. I think a very good example is ChatGPT that just became public a few months ago. And you see how it changes the human behavior in the end, right? So the editorial jobs are going to be much simpler in the future because it's much easier to create text. Now imagine how it's going to be in the future to compete with AI-powered companies that can improve their processes on the fly, real time, automatically. So there is no more trial and error. So there is no more waste. There is always optimal parameters, optimal conditions, and optimal throughput in your processing lines, making your use of capital much more efficient.
So we'll see a situation when companies that were able to properly adopt this kind of technologies will always stay a little bit ahead. Yeah?
That's true.
Okay, so that is quite interesting projection of the future. Can you also share some ideas how this kind of improvements are adopted? What are the implementation strategies that companies take?
I can. I see when you are introducing a digital strategy, you have to focus on improving first your infrastructure, because it's going to enable you to develop more, implement more and more technologies and more projects. But most of all, you need to develop your people. And that's in general the bottleneck of any digital transformation journey. So it's to have the right people with the right knowledge doing the right thing. So the right thing comes in the end. So having the right people with the knowledge, it is the most important thing in digital transformation. And any kind of use that you can make of technologies that can develop your people is going to make you one step ahead of your competition. I can tell you a few examples what we do in our business. So in the food business, food safety and quality are the primary goals to keep your customers happy in the end. And we focus a lot of our applications there. And you can imagine in any kind of process, you have a quality variation at the end. So we need to keep the quality variation at the standard that you want to deliver. One good example is the moisture control in most of the dry products we have. We are, for example, world leaders in dried onions. We have a few plants in the US and also in Egypt. And in that process, we take the raw onions in our plant in California, for example. It's the largest facility in the world for the hydration of onions. We take about 60 million onions a day, and we slice them in very thin slices, and we dry them in a very long tunnel for hours. The way they used to process this over 40 years long was manually, basically. So you have operators, based on their knowledge, they used to adjust the parameters and have the optimal moisture at the end. We took the initiative to optimize that process. So we started by getting the results. They were all in spec, but to keep them in spec, we were over drying the onions by about 3 to 4%. And okay, let's reduce the giveaway you are giving to the customers, because that's yield loss, basically. And we are delivering above the spec that we don't need to. So. And we implemented a machine learning algorithm there that would give us the optimal parameters for all the parameters, the control parameters of the process, like the speed, the conveyor speed, the fan speed, the temperatures, and everything. That was a very interesting platform, and the first thing we noticed is that it changed behavior. There was a belief in the system that you need to slow down your dryers at night because it's cooler outside, and so we slowed down the process. But we did the correlation analysis, we didn't see any correlation because the process was isolated enough not to account for the external conditions. And as a result of this, they were over drying more at night than during the day, what we could see when we got the data. So when we got access to data, you start to see the insights, right? And after our analysis, they just said, okay, stop not slowing down the dryers at night. So we're gonna keep running them at the same speed from the day and night, and that improved our yield. And we're talking here about percentages of improvement in a very large business at scale, which is what brings you then the savings you're looking for.
It's a very interesting example, and we actually see this across different industries. So what is interesting is that you have actually operators, or like, employees that have been in an organization for decades, and they have this kind of knowledge. So what we are trying to do, we try to transfer this knowledge out of their heads and put it into a system. So it's really, let's say, a good way to improve your production, right? Perfect. So maybe you can also try to use your imagination and looking into the future a little bit. So what do you project in next couple of years when it comes to transformation of manufacturing?
I see the use of AI picking up speed now, especially with the introduction of ChatGPT in your personal environment. Previously, if you want to answer a question, you have to look through dashboards. And if you are digital enough in your operations, right, you have your whole operation digitalized, you see the dashboard, you see the trends, but you have a lot of them. You have to do the analysis yourself. I see in the future, instead of you making the analysis yourself, you can ask an AI engine the question you want to answer, and the AI engine is going to do the whole assessment for you and give you the best, the most likely answer based on the data. So that's one of the trends I'm seeing, and I already seen some pilots of this in the operational excellence environment, for example. You can build your database of best practices, and if you're sitting in a different location, you want to know, okay, what is our best practice for this specific task? And you can just ask that question, and the AI engine is going to look for the best answer based on your portfolio of best practices. That's, I believe, one of them. The other one I see growing is 5G. So in a couple of years, there is no need more for cabling in your whole site. You can have a couple of 5G antennas, and they're going to cover most of it, even for real-time applications.
Okay, I think we can end up here. So exciting future is awaiting us.
Yep, definitely.
Thank you for being with me. And
thank you, Piotr.
talk to you later.
All right, thank you.